Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I present to you a king representing the state of Virginia. Rob is a community builder, visionary, and serial real estate entrepreneur. Rob Chevez is a CEO of CAZA, a real estate agency with over $1 billion in sales. Dedicated to helping investors buy, sell, and invest in residential real estate, he is also founder of the Grid Investor Network, the largest agent-led real estate investment network in the world. His personal mission is to guide, inspire, and teach real estate entrepreneurs how to build wealth, create impact, and achieve financial freedom through real estate. Each week, Rob personally writes the Income Flip newsletter and releases a new episode of the Income Flip podcast. You can get in touch with Rob at 703-587-0995 or rob at thecazagroup.com. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Rob. Hey, Rob, how are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Sir, yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, I can.
Perfect.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. I was a little bit worried because my Wi-Fi wasn't working, and I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm showing up, that I'm present. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Not greatly appreciate. It's an honor, Rob. It's an honor. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob is essentially going to be a legend in this real estate game for those who don't know. Rob, can you tell everybody how you got your first deal? Do you remember that by chance?
My first investment deal?
Yep.
My first investment deal. How did I get my first investment deal? Well, I mean, my first investment deal was really a house hack. It was the first property I ever purchased. And then I decided to rent out the bedrooms, and my roommates covered pretty much all my mortgage. I think I was left with like $200 to pay on my side. And that's what hooked me. I literally was hooked because I was like, wow, this is powerful. They're paying my mortgage and I get to hang out with friends. That was the bonus.
No, amazing. And Rob, what do you think was like the turning point in your career where like your eyes lit up? You're like, "Whoa, I'm about to take market share, or I'm about to create financial freedom for myself."
You know, I had been growing and building a recruiting business for 7 years. So I was an executive recruiter, placing technical salespeople, and the problem with that business was that every month you start at zero. Every month, you know, it's like being an agent. Almost every month you start at zero. And I realized that the only way that I was going to untrap myself, the only way that I was going to create freedom was by buying assets or doing something that would pay me forever. Like I was tired of making a placement and then having to go find another placement. I was like, wouldn't it be awesome if I could do one thing one time and get paid forever? So that was the overall idea. And I was like, well, how would I do that? And I was like, well, I could buy real estate, own that real estate, and get paid forever. And so that's where the genesis of that idea came from.
Nice, man. No, it sounds like you really had a knack for how to build residual income. Most people don't realize that residual income can be powerful at times. And what's the next biggest thing in the horizon for you in the upcoming months or upcoming years?
Well, we're opening multiple offices all around the country. So right now I'm in St. Pete, Florida, launching, right? We're in St. Pete, but we're launching offices. Our play is we'll launch a community, and then we build a real estate team around that community. And I'm honestly, the reason why I did it, like the reason why I came to Florida myself instead of having somebody else do it, was because I wanted to get out of the cold weather. I'm at a stage in my life where I'm like, I don't need to be in the cold weather if I don't have to be. So let me just get out of the cold weather. Let me go somewhere warm. Let me launch an office. And so here we are.
Congrats, man. It sounds like you're still in expansion mode.
What do you think? Always. Hang on one second. I'm going to change this camera. Bear with me.
Do your thing, Rob.
See if it works. Oops, not working, but let's, I'm going to get the integrated camera. This other one's like, there we go. There we go. That might be a little bit better.
Yes,
okay.
There. And like, what do you think is like the most misunderstood thing about you, Rob, that people don't really understand?
Misunderstood. I don't know if there's anything like misunderstood about me. right? I think I am what people see. You know, I don't I don't combat that. I don't think, oh, I just wish somebody understood this piece of me. I'm pretty much what you see.
I know you seem like a genuine, transparent person, man. And what do you think are some big misconceptions in 2025 when it comes to investing?
Well, I think one of the big misconceptions for everybody is that, especially in the beginning, people think that they need money to make money, and you don't. Oftentimes people wait. They'll say, "Well, when I save a certain amount of money, then I'll invest the money." And what they fail to understand is that it's really thinking and it's specialized information. So when you unlock the specialized information of how to invest, then you realize that you can create money by creating partnerships. You don't need the money. You do need the hustle, but you don't need the cash, right? The cash is out there. So I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have.
And like, do you think you on your podcast or your newsletter, do you talk more about these kind of topics by chance?
Oh yeah, all the time, right? I interview people who have built wealth through different levers of real estate investing, because there's lots, right? There's like, you could buy storage units, you could buy multifamily, you could do sub twos, you can fix and flip, you can do multifamily. Like the list is on and on and on. And so I'm always curious to understand somebody's thinking, what led them down that particular path, and how they did it. So the podcast, that's what the podcast is all about.
Nice, nice. No, yeah, seeing someone's due diligence and how they go about it and how they see white space. And if you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be and why?
I wouldn't change the industry. I think the industry, like all things, is the free market. And so like, I can't wish for something to happen. I just have to always adapt to what's happening. So that's how I think of it, right? I'm like, it's just constantly adapting, right? People are always worried about stuff. And I'm like, no, we just pivot. We pivot. We pivot. Like that's the nature of business. That's the nature of growth.
You know what's funny, Rob? A lot of people like don't like the unknown and they hate breaking old habits. So the fact that you're open-minded to always being able to pivot on a dime shows that you truly are like a purebred entrepreneur.
Well, yeah, the one thing is certain is that nothing is constant.
No, that's very true though. Yeah. That's very true. And yeah, and then what's the most courageous decision you made recently and how has it impacted you?
Courageous decision that I've made recently. There isn't any one big thing. I think it's always just lots of little micro things that over time add up to look like a big thing. And so it's constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly growing, constantly putting yourself in rooms with people that are doing things at a super high level. I don't think there's ever one big thing. Like maybe there was times in my life where when I left my recruiting business to go start the real estate business from scratch and essentially start over, that was a big thing, right? But now it's just iterate, and never be afraid to break something, to iterate, right? And constantly move forward. So I think the courageous thing is just staying on task, right? And continuing to move forward.
No, so yeah, no, you seem like you're very focused and always in zone action. And like, what's the story behind this grid? Like, why create a network worldwide or just in the domestic United States?
It wasn't anything I intended to do. It was something that the market wanted, right? So I ran my local investment network purely for myself, just to get into relationship with business owners and get into relationship with real estate investors. And what happened was people started approaching me from other markets saying, hey, how do I do this play? Can you do this play in my market? And I was like, I'm busy. I don't have time to do it, right? And then after a couple times, of being approached, I said, well, maybe I can license this. Maybe this wants to be bigger than just this local little investment group. And so we started expanding that idea and building around that idea. And it's become a powerful movement, right? It at its core is a way to help entrepreneurs, because that's how I see us, real estate entrepreneurs, to help us build bigger, better lives. And so to me, that's a very cool mission. Like if I can help another entrepreneur on this journey, and it's not an easy journey, right? It's filled with pitfalls and, left turns that don't make sense and, and cul-de-sacs. And I want to be able to help people kind of understand a way of doing it, a path of doing it, and fostering that community and that collaboration, because it's lonely to do this by yourself. It sucks actually to do it by yourself. It's better to do it in partnership and in collaboration with other people. And so it just became what it wanted to become. I didn't force it, right? Now we're like, okay, now we catch the vision. We're like, cool, let's launch them. And I realized that community that we created is a way for me to expand to all of my sales teams. And so I'm using my platform to expand my sales teams all around the country. And everybody has the opportunity to do that too. It's not just my team, right? We have teams from Compass, Remax, Keller, EXP, Colwell. Like it's a brand agnostic community that's led by agent investors like myself in those markets.
No, that's very gnarly. I would say very wicked. And like you're right, the real estate industry can feel like a roller coaster sometimes. There's some valleys and there's some peaks. You never know where you're going to be. And what year did you get into real estate, Rob? Exactly.
Well, as a full-time real estate investor in 2005, the summer of 2005. Yeah, that was full-time. Prior to that, I'd been buying real estate part-time since 1999, right? Like one house a year was kind of what I was doing. I bought that first house hack, I think in 99. And then I bought another house the next year. And then I just I just kept buying houses. And then in the summer of 2005, I was like, I'm in love with real estate. Like I like recruiting, but I love real estate. And so I told my wife, my heart is telling me to go in this direction, but I think we're going to go through some kind of real estate crash. Not because I fully understood what was happening, but because it felt very frothy. And I had experienced what that froth was like during the .com boom and bust. And I was like, it feels like that. And I think we're going to go through a bust. And if we make it through the other side, I think we'll be positioned really well to grow. And that's what happened. Like we never got caught. I was cautious in 2008 when everything was 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
I bought properties with a friend. And so I got partly lucky because of past experience.
Look at you, man. You listen to your gut and you're very self-aware. Yeah. Most people got like caught up and had to go, were belly under, and it seemed like you prevailed over adversity.
Well, I saw believe me, like I had pain before, right? When I was in my mid-20s and the .com implosion happened, I felt it, right? I invested some money in stocks that went to zero. And I was like, shit, they can go to zero. I didn't know they could go to zero. I didn't know these companies could file for bankruptcy. And that's how naive I was, right? And it made me cautious. It made me start paying attention. And so when the real estate financial crisis came around, I remember calling my friends that were in real estate full-time at the time, making a lot of money. And I was watching them make money. I was on the recruiting side and I was watching them make money. And I called them and I would say, hey, pay off that house. You're making a ton of cash. Like save your money. This could change on you. And nobody listened, right? And so when we went full time, I told my wife, I think we should sell a couple of our assets to stabilize our life, because I'm essentially going, unemployed. I'm going to be a self-employed person, and we don't know what this is going to look like. So we sold a couple properties in like 04, 05. And then sure enough, it started going off that cliff in like 07, 08, right? 06, it was still fine. You started seeing it slow down, but it wasn't overnight. It was, you saw it happening slowly.
No, it makes total sense. Makes total sense. And I'm curious, Rob. I don't know if I can send you a report after this, but like there is some report that supposedly FHA loans, they're at like almost a 10 or 11% delinquency rate, which is like close to what it was in 08, 09. So like, what do you like? How do you think like the government can create something to like extend those mortgages for the people, or do you think they're just going to let them default?
I think that they will try to modify some of those loans. Nobody wants those to actually happen, but the majority of them inevitably will end up defaulting because that's just the nature of how this works, right? You can help somebody for the short term. Some of the people will be able to like get back and recuperate, but some people won't. The majority will not. That's been my experience. And so what we could do on our side is help people through those difficult times, transition out of those properties and into something else.
No, it makes total sense. Makes total sense. Yeah, it'll be interesting how that one plays out. And you don't have to answer this question at all, but like, how do you handle criticism or negative feedback about your work if it's ever occurred?
I just stay in my lane, man. Like I know who I am. I stay in my lane. I don't, luckily, I don't have a lot of people coming after me or giving me negative criticism. I'm always open to listening and saying, okay, is there truth behind this? And I triangulate the truth. So for example, if you hear it from multiple sources, and they're different multiple sources, well, maybe there's something that you need to look at to change, right? And so I'm always open to that. Ray Dalio, very famous business owner, financial, yeah, exactly, hedge fund guy. He talks about triangulating the truth, right? It's like, okay, is there something actually here? And then you weight it based on who you're hearing it from, and then you make decisions based on that, based on reality, right? So I'm not married to ideas that I think are my ideas. I'm married to the one that's going to work, right?
No, of course, man. Of course, no. Your heart's centered and integrous. I can sense it. And after doing like so many transactions, is there like a memorable success or failure that still sticks with you until this day?
One memorable success or failure. It's funny. I could always remember like my failures. Like those are the ones that are like, they're always fresh, right? Like, I tell this story often. I bought this triplex years ago that was not on a great street. And, but I bought it and I wholesaled it to somebody who I knew well. And I told him, hey, this, not the best street, but there's margin in this deal. It's going to require about $70,000 worth of renovation. I think it's a good long-term buy and hold, right? And he said, Rob, that sounds great. So I sold him the contract, and I made money when I sold the contract, right? And he said, Rob, the problem is I don't have a crew to help me renovate this property. I said, no problem. We'll renovate it for you. We'll do it at cost, right? So we get into this renovation, and the gentleman that was helping me renovate the property, he was my GC, worked for me directly, pretty much stole from us in that process. Like this renovation ended up costing, went from 70,000 to like 140,000, right? And I remember turning to double. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. And there was drugs involved, and I was wiring I was out of the country with my wife, wiring money to him, and he wasn't doing the work on the project. It was bad, right? And I remember when it was all said and done, I fired him, like mid-job, like we're halfway through the budget, and I realized we hadn't even finished one unit, and I'm like, okay, we're in trouble. I brought somebody else in. We finished the project, but it cost double. And I remember talking to my friend and said, listen, this deal's now a bad deal. It went from being a good deal, but now that we're way over budget, it's a bad deal. So let me buy the contract, let me buy the asset back from you, and I will take responsibility for this, right? And let me handle it. And so at first he thought that, I can understand his thinking. He thought that I was trying to buy back this deal because it was gonna be such a good effing deal, right? I was like, I promise you, this is not a good deal. This is bad for you. Let me show you why it's bad for you. Ultimately, I bought that deal back from him. I gave him a little bit of money. I gave him like $5,000 for his problems, and I bought it back. Okay. That thing ended up being a thorn in my side for the next 15 years. And eventually I shut the building down. Because it was less expensive, because it was such a bad street. It was less expensive to have it vacant than for me to put tenants into it. Okay. And I just paid on the note because it was literally less expensive to just carry the note than to put tenants into it. And I think a couple years ago, I literally sold that thing a couple years ago, and I lost money, right? Like when I sold it, I was just like, I covered the note. So I got out of the note, took that obligation off my balance sheet. And I was like, okay, well, that was a lesson learned, right? I did the right thing by him. So it was a good thing. I did the right thing by him. But man, it was painful for me for a long time, 15, 16 years. And I lost money, right? Now, the good news, it's not good news, but I had sold another asset that I made a lot of money on. So when I sold this one that I lost a lot of money on, they just kind of like balanced themselves out. And I didn't have to worry about a big tax liability with the one that I sold. So there's, you got to just keep moving. You just got to keep in the game. You got to keep in the fight, right? If I had just stopped with that one asset, I would have then just been licking my wounds and been like, I don't ever want to invest in real estate again because I lost money. You have to stay in the game, right? You got to stay in the game. And so I've had lots of wins, but that's one that I definitely remember. It was a big loss for me.
It's honestly a crazy one. The fact that the GC did that to you, like how dare they? And the fact that it was actually less expensive keeping it vacant than renting it is like profound.
Yeah, there was a lot. I actually, when I think back, like I got very lucky because I had this crew of people that were all working for me, W-2 and 1099s, and like I don't think I had the proper insurance set up. I was like one big liability waiting to happen. And, I look back, life is all about perspective. It's how you think about things, right? I look back and go, wow, I got lucky, right? Like nothing serious ever happened. And it was an asset that I could weather. It wasn't anything that could take me out, right? I never missed payments. I never, I just kind of took it on the chin and just kept moving.
Nah, man, but you still have like a long-term, like you're playing the long game. Most people out there like only think 6 months or a year out, to be honest with you. So the fact that you're willing to like think very long term shows a lot about your character. And switching gears just a little bit, like if you could have dinner with one historical figure, like who would it be and why?
I mean, I'd love to have dinner with Jesus. That'd be great, right? And just, and Buddha and like all the Muhammad, like all the great spiritual leaders and, of the world. I'd love to sit down and just talk to them, right? And on the business front, I'm watching Titans. It's on Prime, and it's about the story of JP Morgan and the story of like Goldman Sachs. And like, it's fascinating to see the stories of the people that built America. Like having dinner with those people too would be fascinating. Right. And Lincoln and Gandhi and, Martin Luther King. I mean, there's like, dude, just one would be hard, right? But, yeah, it'd probably be Jesus.
That's a good pick.
Yeah.
That's a good pick, bro. I think like if you study him, I think he speaks in parables. So like the way he communicates, it makes you like internally like you internally create your own decision, even though like he sort of just guides you so you can internally create your own decision where you need to be going, which I think is very interesting. Robin, you're like super successful. You're probably like, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say you're maybe like part of the 1% of America. Like in 2025, like who or what influences you or inspires you the most in your work?
I mean, I always want to up my game. So it's interesting. The people that inspire me are the ones that have built companies that are worth, $500 million to $1 billion plus, right? So I'm just thinking, how do we build a business that has tangible value assets in the hundreds of millions of dollars? Like, what can I learn from them? How can I break bread with them to understand their thinking around that? Because at the end of the day, we're all the same, right? It's just the only thing that kind of separates us is our thinking and our belief system around it. And these are patterns. You could just learn the patterns and then copy the patterns. It's not like anything. It's not like anybody's any smarter. It's not like, of course, yes, there are people that are like a lot smarter, right? But for the most part, it's people that had vision, and sometimes they caught a lucky break, or maybe they had the right mentor or the right idea at the right time. So you just need to surround yourself with people that pull you up, and whatever stage of life you're in. And so the people that I'm looking at today are friends of mine. I consider them friends that have built billion-dollar companies, or hundreds. They've got companies that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and so I want to hang out with them and break bread with them, and ask them questions and learn from them. And I'm a student at the core of this. Like I am always just want to remain a student of the game.
That says a lot about you, because you've already done your 10,000 hours. So technically you aren't expert in what you do. And the fact that you still just want to elevate and just keep just get on your own grade.
Well, Ray Dalio talks about this. I think it's a really good thing, right? It's there's always another mountain. So it's like your learning takes you to a certain level, and then when you go to the next level, like literally you're going to just fall and stumble, and it's like that cycle, and then you're going to loop back up. And so for me, I've tied a lot of joy from growing and building things. It's not so much having things. The joy for me is in the growing and building things. That inspires me. This world's a big world, man. There's a lot to do. There's like the only limitation is the limitation that we have in our own minds about what we're capable of doing. And I believe that if somebody could do it, I could do it too. It just maybe it took them 2 years. Maybe it'll take me 20 years, but I certainly am going to continue down that path of discovery and growth. And that's fun for me, right? That's why this business has stayed fun. It's like, I'm always learning. I'm always like, oh, how do we do this better? How do I become a better leader? How do I create more leads and opportunities for the team? How do we open up more offices? How do I coach people to be leaders themselves? Right? It never ends. It never ends. So you just have to have the joy in the growth of all of it.
No, seriously.
And I'm blessed, right? Like I look at it and I'm like, I know I am blessed. And so it's the time that I'm going to stay here on this earth. I want to make sure that I'm passing those blessings along, and just continuing to do what I love to do.
No, of course. No, it seems like most people are like focused on like the end result, like the outcome, and you're in like you're more into like the game and the journey of it all. So that really says a lot.
I have an idea of what I want, right? I have an idea of what you need You need a destination. You need a destination. But I don't beat myself up about the time frame of that destination. It's just like, let's just inch forward one step at a time, right? Let's just keep moving forward. That's why, like, our value system, we call it forward, right? Like, we always say, hey, we are a forward culture, right? And for us, that's family first, right? Own your outcomes, like own your shit, right? Raving fan service, work hard, always be learning, right? That's one of them, right? Always be learning. Results matter. Do the right thing culture, right? And so we believe in living a forward culture, and that's kind of like our ethos, right?
Man, those are great core values and great mantras to live by, I would say. And like, Rob, I don't know which one you want to answer, but like, how would you give advice to a new real estate or a new investor? Like, how could they create a deal in the next 3 months for themselves, you think? Because what we do now usually plays out 3 months from now in real estate.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is a really, really simple business. Inputs equals outputs. And the analogy that I always give brand new agents starting off is, I wish I had a cup here to show you, but like I hold a cup in front of them and I say, when an input is like, you put a marble in that cup and nothing happens, right? Like, you put the marble in, nothing happens. And then you put another one in, nothing happens. 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 But at some point, you will put a marble in that cup and it will spill over. And that signifies a deal, okay? So then if you understand that idea, you've got to have a cup full of marbles that are constantly like, you put one in, it'll spill over. So if you understand that idea, your job then is to put as many marbles into that cup as quickly as you possibly can. And so just keep putting more marbles into that cup. The faster you put them in, the more money you make. So it could take you a year to fill the cup with marbles, or it could take you a month to fill the cup with marbles. It's your choice, right? So then you start asking yourself, how can I put more marbles into the cup faster? Right. And in fact, that's how Grid grew. That's how it started. Like, the reason why Grid started was, instead of me chasing 40 people, what if I could bring 40 people to me in one night? Instead of me calling 40 people, right? What if I could, and try and making phone calls to try to talk to 40 people? What if I could bring them all in one night for 1 hour? And that thinking is the idea of one to many. Right. Same thing with today with social media. How do I post a message that can get in front of thousands of people? Right. So that's the idea. Like, fill your cup with as many marbles as possible so that those marbles start spilling over. And that's what deals are. So the advice is as many inputs as you possibly can, as fast as you can. Right. And fail forward. Be okay with failing forward. Like, fail forward, be cool, be rejected. It's okay. Like, who cares, right? I remember telling my little baby girl when she's not a baby anymore, but she's 23 now. But when she was younger, I said, baby girl, I want you to go out and fail fast and fail often. Like, you have permission to like fail fast and fail often, because that's the only way anybody ever learns. That's the only way anybody learns, right? And so so you start celebrating the failures. Like, awesome, that didn't work. Let's do it again until it works. Awesome. And, I think about, like, where did I get that from? I got that from sports. Sports taught me that, right? Like, you get your, like, you have to learn how to play the game, right? And are you good at the game in the beginning? No. But you just keep playing the game, and you keep playing the game, and you keep playing the game, and eventually you're like, I'm good at this game. Like, I'm good. And people are like, how'd you get so good at the game? I just kept playing the game. Right? It's that simple. It's not that hard. And it's like, and I wanted to get good at the game. So I studied the game. So I would watch videos and I would practice, and I would, and whether it was soccer or whether it was golf or whether it was wrestling, I always obsessed on trying to like understand, or rugby, like that was the other sport. Like, I just wanted to get good at the game. And then I realized, business is just a game.
Essentially,
right?
yeah. Capitalism is a zero-sum game, technically.
Yeah, it's just a game. It's just a game, right? It's an infinite game. There isn't. By the way, there are no winners or losers. You could say that, but it's like it's the goal of the game is to continue to play the game, stay alive to play the game. That's it. That's it. That's the goal of the game, right?
Yeah, truly, though. Truly, I think I got three things from you out of that. One, you learn through trial and error or somebody else's trial and error, so you can speed up your learning curve. Two, you seem like the person that really likes to reverse engineer things for the inputs and outputs. And then lastly, man, you got a passion for the game, man. You really do have a passion for this game. And yeah, let's see here. What do you think is your definition of work-life balance, and what's your advice for somebody trying to attain that? And how do you apply it in your life?
This was probably my biggest Achilles heel, right? Like I had to be corrected, slapped on the hand, corrected, right? Like probably 10 years into my marriage, where my wife was like, "Hey, you're here, but you're not here. You're playing the game in your head," right? It's like, she's like, you're always thinking about the next move. And so I had to learn to switch it off, to be honest with you. That was my challenge. My biggest challenge in life was like, how do I switch it off? And so it started with time blocking. So I would be like, okay, I'm going to try to get as much of my work done from here to here, and then be okay with turning it off. And by the way, like Catholic guilt, you've heard of like Catholic guilt. Like for me was like, if I wasn't working, I felt guilty. And I don't know where that came from. That was me, my competitive spirit, my nature. Like I would literally be like, somebody else is working right now, so you might as well work, right? Somebody else is getting ahead right now, so you might as well like just keep doing it. And that's very dangerous. It was a billionaire. And so it was a billionaire. It was Gary Keller that essentially said something that like really resonated with me. And I was like, ooh, right. He said, listen, if you can't get your work done between, let's say like 7:30 in the morning to like 5 in the afternoon or 5:30 in the afternoon, if you can't learn how to get it done during that time, then you're cheating at that point. You're cheating your family, you're cheating your health, you're cheating yourself, right? Your goal is to not work 24/7. Your goal is to maximize the hours that you do, right? And so then you start asking better questions like, okay, listen, here's a way to think about this. It could take somebody all day long, let's say 12 hours a day, to pick up the phone and call 10 people. Okay. Because maybe they're scared or maybe they're taking lots of breaks, but they feel like they worked 10 hours that day or 12 hours that day. But somebody else could get those 10 calls done in 1 hour, right? And so you can compress time like that. And then, and so I had to change my thinking about long hours and, and all the rest. And so my definition of work-life balance is I get to be able to integrate my life and my work, my life and my work. It's kind of the same thing. But when I'm with the people that I love, I work hard at being present. I work hard at putting my phone away. I work hard. And when I say I work hard, because it doesn't come natural, I'm like, put your freaking phone away, turn it down, turn it over, stay away from it, focus on the person, right? Some of the people don't have a problem with that. For me, that was the challenge. Some of the people had like their challenge was they got to get up and go to work, and they are dreading going to work. I'm like skipping and whistling to work, right? Yeah, so it's a little, and I don't know where that came from. It's just I'm competitive, so
super competitive. Hey, Rob, baby, I'm not gonna lie. I one time had an old man like $1 billion is not much when you're talking trillions. I don't know if you knew this, but there's 237 million out there. So like 1%, only 1% of a trillion is 10 billion. So if you're talking anything under 10 billion, technically, all you should be chasing is fulfillment. You know what I mean?
Well, 100%. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like I say I'm competitive, and you realize like eventually I just had to learn there's always a bigger dog out there, right? It's like you just have to be competitive with yourself. And by the way, at the end of the day, it's like the only people that really care about anything are the immediate little people around you, right? Like your children and your spouse and your mom and your dad and your brothers and sisters. It's like that's really the most important, like those are the most important people and
Not
yeah,
seriously.
assets and yeah.
Yeah, because
That's what matters. That's what matters most, right? It's like everybody, Steve Jobs just died and he impacted the world, and everybody's like, okay, well, Steve's dead, right? It's
yeah,
like
seriously.
it's like it's just like the life moves on, so you might as well like make sure you're enjoying the journey, make sure that the people around you, you're taking good care of them, and you love them, and they love you, and build valuable memories, because that's all that you're really taking. You don't even take those with you potentially, right? It's like that's what matters, right? Um, yeah.
No, but seriously though, Rob, like yeah, just see, like you said, like family. When you see those pictures, it's so priceless, and it's kind of nostalgic, where it just like takes you to like a like it's a good feel, And what do you think is the most challenging aspect of being in your role, like managing a team of like agents and managing grid? Like what's your biggest challenge? Would you say in today's
Um,
world?
I think my biggest challenge is just leveling up my leadership skill, being confident in my leadership skill. You have at some point you have a lot of people that are in your world, and you're like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm leading them well, and that I'm showing up well for them, because I make no mistake, I work for them, right? Like at the end of the day, like I work for them. And so it's, am I showing up and giving them the energy they need? Am I strategically putting us in the path for success for everybody within the organization? I think that has been my biggest growth opportunity is just growing as a leader. And that becomes part of the game. Like I remember there was a point where I was like really good at making money as an agent and as an investor. And a lot of people get stuck there, right? Like they're like good at what we call ringing the bell, right? But there comes a point where the person has to make a decision. Do they want to just continue ringing the bell? And then sometimes they get stuck on this transaction treadmill, right? And they can get off of it by buying assets. So you can get off of it by buying assets, and those assets pay you back over time. And or, because it's an and, right? Can I learn how to really work and grow through people? And you can build a massive business, a fulfilling business, by growing and helping other people build something that matters to them, right? That
It's like
means you need to level up your game in order to do that.
I totally. You know that guy named Zig Ziglar? He's like, you can attain your dreams as long as you help other people attain their dreams, which is
Yes.
like essentially what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. That's what it is. So I realize it's like I have to keep, the reason why we keep growing and expanding is because my world has to be so big that their world is within that world potentially, and our worlds overlap, right? So I just have to keep growing, which by the way I love to do. So like it's not you don't have to force me to want to grow. Like I want to grow.
No, trust me, you're like I can sense it. You're like really big on personal development. Like
Yeah.
you're like yeah, always sharpening, like yeah, always working, never satisfied, essentially. And then do you have like a favorite book or article or podcast that's had like a significant impact on your life?
I love story. Like How I Built This is a podcast that I really enjoy by Guy Raz. I love stories of the entrepreneur and the business owner. It's actually why I love this business so much. It's like everybody, whether they're a brand new baby agent or a brand new investor, like they had to leave the safety of like a job, right? Which really isn't safe, but like that's how they view it. They had to leave that for a better tomorrow. And I honor that leap of faith because it's a leap of faith. And then the people that have built really big, massive businesses around ideas and around passions that they've had. I love those stories. It's like the hero's journey, right? It's the hero's journey story, right? It could be whether it's Star Wars or Harry Potter. They're cool stories and they're all around us. They're all around us happening all the time, right? One of the reasons why I like doing the podcast, kind of like what you're doing, is because you get to uncover everyday heroes in their stories, right? And so, shoot, I forget the question you asked me, but I led you down a line of thinking. For me, it's just I enjoy that aspect of the game, and so I honor that aspect of the game. So anybody that's built, I got the question again. Anybody that has any podcast where they're interviewing business owners is really interesting to me because I love like the journey of that person. And, there's multiple ways that you can get to the top of the mountain, right? It's like, just because there's one way doesn't mean there isn't another way. And so hearing those different perspectives of how they did it teaches me something. That's what I love. So How I Built This by Guy Raz is one of them.
Nice. Is there any like other books or articles that like you've read and like you apply to these like, until now, or is it you're more like a visual listener? Or
No. I love. I mean, there's lots of books, but one that I remember reading and being like, oh, yeah, of course, it's so obvious. But why? Is Who Not How, right? The book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. The book, The Idea of the One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Mm-hmm. Those are really powerful books. The ideas are simple, okay? Meaning like, hey, focus on one thing, right? And by focusing on the one thing that matters most makes everything else easier or necessary. That line of thinking. There's so much wisdom in that. It's easy to say, but you could build a whole book around it to really cement that idea. And then the other simple idea is not to ask, how should I do this? Instead, ask, who can help me do this, right? That is another very powerful idea because we're often kind of like prisoners of our own thinking. So we need to go out and find people that have already done it. I tell my team all the time, your job is to find the very best in the world that is doing what you're doing and go become friends with that person, right? And like learn how they do it, like and learn, right? The only way you're going to learn how to like make $1 billion, if that's one of your life goals, is to go hang out with billionaires, right? If it's to make $1 million, go hang out with somebody that makes $1 million a year. If it's to make 10 million, if it's to have somebody that lives a lifestyle that you want, like Sir Richard Branson. I always love that he lives on an island, right? He does his morning tennis. He kite surfs. He's like the CEO that so many people are like, oh man, that guy is like so cool. He runs this major company and he's had his share of failures. Like his Virgin Galactic just went bankrupt, right? But it's like, find who you want to become and then model them, right?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, cliches are we're like the average of the 5 people we hang out most with, and if we hang out with the 5 really successful people where we want to be, then chances are we're going to be there too. And I got a few more quick questions for you, Rob.
Sure.
Have you started implementing AI yet, or do you know how what angle you're going to use AI to grow your business and scale up more, or is it just something just for you're going to be using fulfillment and just marketing and like just?
I'll tell you how we're using it right now, but I'll tell you I did this whole presentation on like our world is going to change drastically in the next like 12 to 36 months. Like it's going to be so different. But writing content, writing books, writing ads, all good marketing. Like you can like, you could whip it up in 2 seconds like that with, AI, right? I also use it to build business plans, to vet my thinking, right? It's like, hey, I want to build this, 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 and this. How would you, based on best practices, based on the best consultants in the world, based on like you have to think, it's the ultimate teacher for you, right? To teach you how to do it. In fact, I was asking the CEO of our company, he's very big in the AI. And I was asking him, hey, well, first I said, I think our world is going to change drastically, like over the next 12 to 24 months. And like, it's going to be either people that use AI, people that use AI are going to be the employers of the people that don't know how to use AI. Right. And he said, absolutely right. He's like, it's going to change. But I was like, so where do I go learn this? And he's like, the AI is your best teacher to teach you how to use AI. Right. And so you just have to start prompting. And there's going to be agents for everything, right? You're going to have an agent that essentially handles everything. And I think the virtual assistants that we use today will have to up their skill set, because AI will be that gap that a lot of our current virtual assistants are doing for us. And I think that the business VR is going to be very big, where you will not have to leave your house to go tour property. You will be in the house, walk through the house. You will walk through the neighborhood. You'll be able to get a feel for the community just through VR. And you will probably just push a button, like push a button and write a contract. Your agent will write a contract right then and there. Like, I think it's going to change everything. Now, you will physically at some point go visit the house, but I think that the majority of the decisions will be made with virtual reality.
No, totally.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty certain that that's what will happen.
No, I could see that. It's like, that's mind blowing stuff right there.
Yeah.
I got 3 more questions for you, Rob.
Sure.
What piece of advice do you wish you had received early in your career? Is there any big lesson in your career that sticks out with you?
Yeah, I wish I asked for more help earlier in my career. I had this weird thing where I felt like I needed to earn my right for a seat at the table to ask a question. And that's wrong. You just need to go ask questions. Just go find the information. Go seek the information, right? I think I could have cut my learning, the time it took me to build something, in half, by going and putting myself at the feet of people that have already built these things, and just be like, how do I do it? How do I build it? So I'm very clear today that people have built massively bigger businesses. And I'm just like, okay, how'd you do it? How do I copy it? How can I implement it in my business? Whereas before, I was always like reading a lot, then implementing, then tweaking, then learning. I think it's made me a good teacher, because I can, I understand the thinking around all of that. I can explain things really well because I've like tinkered a lot in it and know what doesn't work. But I think it slowed my growth down. And so I'm a big fan. Like, if you're listening to this right now and you're brand new in the business, like, literally, proximity is power. Go find out who the best are in the world at what you do, and just, get a seat at the table and just be like, I want to be here and I want to learn as much as I possibly can. Don't feel like you have to earn that right. Just asking the question. Like, entrepreneurs want to help entrepreneurs. Go for it.
You're totally right. Yeah, sometimes you just want to give somebody an at that. And levels within levels and proximity, yes, power. 2 more questions. I'm gonna rewatch this when I'm really old. Can you give me a life message, please?
A life message. You got to rewatch, right? When you're really old. Well, here's your life message. You're sowing good seeds doing what you're doing right now. You're helping somebody else. Whether you know it or not, somebody will be affected by what you've just recorded, and just keep planting good seeds. And so at the end of your life, you'll look back, and I promise you, there will be people, that show up on the day that you die saying, he served me, he helped me, like he poured into me. So I'm just going to say, every seed you're planting right now is compounding positively in your life, and just keep doing it.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
Take it from that gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
And my final question to you is, what legacy do you want to leave behind when it's all said and done?
I think it's that same legacy, to be honest with you, right? It's like, can I help people on this journey? Can I help friends? Can I help family? I obviously have the legacy of, I want to create a family bank, right? Like I want to create a bank for our family, right? And we already have it. Like we have that. That's monetary. That's like ego stuff, right? That is whatever stuff, right? The real legacy is, can I help people in my world, whether it's through coaching and training, whether it's through grid, whether it's by introductions, so that at the end of all of this, they're like, he changed my life, right? He helped me, right? That to me is, and here's the reality. 1 and 2 generations later, man, everybody's going to forget about us anyways, right? So it's like, so it's, I always tell my wife, I'm like, I really love trees. Like I love trees. I was like, when I die, I want to be planted as a tree, right? So that the family could always be like, hey, Rob is part of that tree, right? Like that. I want to give myself back in that way, shape, or form, right? And I want to buy. We own land. We want to continue to buy more land, and just be like, hey, my great like grandfather bought this land, or he did this, and this is the story, and this is the damn tree, right? When you think about it, there are legacy families out there, and it's kind of a special thing, the legacy families that have been able to kind of do that. And then how do you write a code for the family so that code gets translated down over time, right? So there's 2 pieces to the legacy, right? There's the family piece, and what you want that to look like. And then there's there's just like being a good human piece to everybody in your world. And, on the day that you die, what does that look like? Who shows up, right, for that? The truth is, I'm going to live to like 120 something, man. So I think I'm probably going to outlive everybody anyway. I don't know.
Hey, they say science technology every 15 years, you're going to be able to add some more life to yourself.
Yeah. My dad's oldest sister is 104, and my dad's oldest brother is 100, right? And I was like, okay, I think I got 120 in me. I think I 120, 125. Remember, I'm competitive.
Gotta set the standard high. Nah, Rob, It was an honor, pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. It truly means a lot. Keep being legendary. Keep making history. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard from a king representing the state of Virginia. Rob, how do you like the people reaching out to you? What's your preference?
Just Instagram. Like Instagram. At Rob Chavez, right? I want to grow that. I want to grow my Instagram account. And so that would be the best place. Perfect. Beautiful. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Reach out to Rob. He has the giver's game mentality. And yeah, thank you, Rob. You're the man. Can you stay on the line for like 1 or 2 minutes?